The Hollywood Unapologetic Podcast with Orlando Delbert, Filmmaking Essentials.
A question that's sparking a lot of debate, really.
Mm-hmm.
Are superhero films actually hindering creativity in Hollywood?
It's a big gun.
Yeah, and we've pulled together a really interesting mix of sources to explore this, stuff from Forbes and Biz News on the money side, more critical takes from The Sunday, Quillette.
And audience voices too,
Yeah.
right? Reddit.
Exactly, our Marvel Studios, our box office.
Yeah.
Plus practical advice for filmmakers from Indie Film Hustle, Writing Until Ragnarok, and even a report from the Center for Scholars and Storytellers on inclusive representation.
Wow, okay, so a broad look.
A very broad look. We'll also touch on how AI might be changing the game. So our mission today is really to look closely at whether this dominance of superhero films is squeezing out fresh ideas.
And why that might be happening.
Yeah, what new creators can maybe learn from it all, and where diversity and AI fit into the picture. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. Well, what immediately jumps out, I think, across several sources is this concern about Hollywood just relying on familiar stuff, familiar IP.
Intellectual property, yeah.
The Sunday calls it a prolonged state of crisis. You see endless sequels, spin-offs, remakes, often costing, upwards of $100 million?
Huge sums. And the worry, like Biz News puts it, is that these safe remakes, these big franchises, they're just crowding out original ideas, potentially really exciting ones.
It's that feeling of, haven't I seen this somewhere before? Like, constantly.
Totally. The Sunday uses Star Wars as a prime example, right?
Yeah.
Always going back to that well instead of, building new universes.
Yeah, creating something entirely fresh. And it's not just the characters. There's a sense, isn't there, that even if the movies are kind of fun?
Yeah, enjoyable in the moment.
The Sunday says they're often pleasurable but hollow. You forget them almost instantly.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. It's not just the newcomers struggling. No, even established directors, they can find their vision compromised. Think Edgar Wright on Ant-Man, or Lord and Miller on the Han Solo film.
Right. Those stories came out. Clashes with the studio.
Yeah, clashes over the IP, basically. Sometimes directors even get replaced. It's often about protecting the brand, the established story.
Even if it means losing a unique take.
Exactly. It's a kind of conservatism, maybe, which might stifle the very boldness that made the original IP popular in the first place.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Quillette brings up Christopher Nolan, which is interesting. After The Dark Knight was such a massive hit, he could still get his original big-budget films made, like Inception.
That's kind of the exception.
Well, yeah, but the irony, Quillette points out, is that The Dark Knight's success probably fueled the industry's obsession with IP even more. It showed how profitable it could be.
Right. The exception that proved the rule, almost.
Sort of, yeah. And this whole dynamic where the IP is king, it really affects what stories get told and how. Often means more explosions, less quiet stuff.
Which brings us to that global market point the Sunday makes, especially thinking about China, right? The drive for those billion-dollar grosses, it can sideline dialogue-heavy, culturally specific stories. You lean towards visual spectacle that travels easily.
Exactly. And connecting that, Quillette has this provocative line, Captain America is the star of the Marvel movies, not Chris Evans.
Ooh, interesting. What does that signify?
Well, it suggests a shift, doesn't it? Away from needing a huge movie star name to draw people in. The property itself, the IP, is the main attraction now.
Okay, I see.
And that directly impacts new filmmakers, as Quillette notes. It's way harder to get funding for an original script when studios see IP as a safer bet.
Right, and you even see big names like Barry Jenkins or Greta Gerwig, after their original successes, getting pulled into directing IP projects.
It feeds that feeling, maybe, that you have after some blockbusters. Like, yeah, it was entertaining, visually impressive, but did it stick with you? Did it make you think?
It's a cycle, isn't it? You get the business logic, but from a creative standpoint, it feels a bit stifling.
Definitely. And there's even talk in Quillette and Writing Until Ragnarok that this focus on quantity, on keeping these massive franchises going, it might be hitting the quality.
How so?
Reports of, rush visual effects, tons of reshoots on recent Disney and Marvel stuff, maybe prioritizing getting it out over getting it perfect.
Okay, so given all that, what are the lessons here for, the next generation trying to break in?
That's a key question. The Sunday makes this really cool comparison to the new Hollywood era, late 60s, 70s.
Oh, yeah. The Godfather, The Exorcist.
Exactly. Blazing Saddles. Studios back then actually took risks on young directors with unique visions. They made personal, diverse films that were also huge hits. Story seemed central then.
And indie film hustle kind of echoes that, right? Looking at directors like Nolan, again, his early films Following, Memento.
Small budgets.
Tiny budgets, yeah. Focused on story, on a vision, before tackling the big IP.
And they give some solid advice, too. Don't blow your money on a flashy short film. Focus on story. Make a low-budget feature. Show your voice.
Because the technical skills, you can hire those.
Right. It's the vision they want to see.
That feels like crucial advice. And, there's still hope for original stuff, even big stuff. Collider mentions a fictional film, Sinners, an original tentpole with an auteur director that succeeded.
Yeah, suggesting that strong storytelling can still cut through and connect with audiences, even on a large scale.
Okay, so let's tackle superhero fatigue directly. Is that really what's happening? Are people just sick of capes?
Well, it's interesting. On Reddit, their Marvel Studios, the argument is maybe fatigue isn't quite the right word.
Oh.
They point out that good superhero stuff, think The Boys, Invincible, The Batman, Across the Spider-Verse, still does really well.
So maybe audiences are just getting more discerning, not tired of the genre itself.
That seems to be the idea. Writing Until Ragnarok backs this up, suggesting maybe it's more about, too much content flooding the market, especially with streaming after COVID.
Right, the sheer volume.
Yeah, plus maybe plot inconsistencies, weak character arcs in some cases. Those might be bigger issues than just superheroes again.
Then there's that more sociological take from Reddit's Are Filmmakers. Pretty stark view.
What was that one?
Something like, the denigration of a society that creates the need for people to cling to superhero movies has done terrible damage to humans.
Wow. Okay, that's a much bigger critique, linking it to societal issues.
Yeah. But alongside that, there's this whole other crucial angle. Diverse representation, or maybe the lack of it.
Ah, yes. This brings us to that Center for Scholars and Storytellers report. They talk about AR, authentically inclusive representation.
ARR, what does that mean exactly? More than just casting.
Oh, much more. It's about authentic stories, authentic depictions, representation both on screen and behind the camera, considering cultural relevance, social context, giving characters dimension.
Okay, and they found this actually matters financially.
Significantly, yeah.
Yeah.
Their research suggests that not having AR can really cost distributors at the box office, especially for mid to large budget films.
And they point to successes like Coco, Black Panther, Crazy Rich Asians.
Exactly. Films with diverse casts and diverse key decision makers behind the scenes.
But it's not just about numbers, is it? Not just ticking boxes.
No, that's a key finding. Just having diversity numerically isn't enough. The story itself has to feel authentic and inclusive to really achieve that AR and connect properly.
Bernice Chow mentioned something similar in Forbes, right? About advertising.
Yeah, how lacking diverse voices in the room led to work that just didn't land authentically. And Media Smarts talks about stereotyping, exoticizing, making audiences feel, othered or misrepresented.
So it really makes you think maybe what feels like fatigue is partly audiences just not feeling seen, not connecting authentically with what's on screen.
It could definitely be a major factor, which interestingly leads us to think about disruptions, like AI. How could that change things for independent filmmakers?
Right, AI. How does that fit in?
Well, Storyboard AI has some interesting thoughts. They mention AI music tools becoming more accessible.
So indie filmmakers might not need a huge budget for a composer or need to be musicians themselves.
Potentially, yeah. It makes scoring more accessible. And it's not just music AI tools for script work, storyboarding, even audio editing like Adobe Podcast or Descript. They can streamline things, cut costs.
Like generating a score based on prompts you give it.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Or cleaning up audio, helping with rough cuts, basically handling some technical hurdles.
So the idea is AI could lower the barrier to entry, make filmmaking tech less intimidating or expensive.
Precisely. Storyboard AI suggests it could allow smaller productions to get higher production value, maybe freeing up creators to really hone in on the story, the narrative.
Democratizing the process, almost.
That's the hope. They suggest it could lead to an explosion, they say, of unique indie films, especially from voices who've historically been marginalized or shut out.
Wow. That's actually a really powerful thought to end on.
It is.
So, as we've explored this whole conversation about superhero fatigue, creativity in Hollywood, It's clearly complex, so many moving parts.
Definitely. We've got the franchise dominance, the chase for billion-dollar box office, how that impacts originality.
Then there's the whole AIR piece, authentically inclusive representation, and how vital that seems to be for audience connection.
And now these emerging technologies like AI potentially shaking things up for independent creators.
Absolutely. It feels like while superheroes are a huge part of the landscape, maybe this fatigue idea, it's less about the genre, maybe more about the quality, the originality, and yeah, the inclusivity of the stories being told.
I think that's a fair summary. Are the stories resonating authentically?
Right. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. As technology keeps racing forward and more diverse voices potentially get easier access to filmmaking tools, are we going to see a real shift, a move back towards more original, more authentically representative stories?
Could AI actually help unlock a new wave of creativity? Maybe even reacting against the big franchise model?
Or maybe even finding new ways within it. It's definitely something to think about as cinema keeps evolving.
You can find more insights on navigating the entertainment industry and achieving success in Orlando Delbert's work, including his book, Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical, and of course, the Hollywood Unapologetic platform. And always remember, you are the key to your own success. You are the new Hollywood generation.
Be informed, be prepared, and most importantly, be great.
That's it. Be great. Good luck out there.
See you next time.